You who speak in dark and devious symbols do not understand the language you have made. It has no meaning, for its purpose is not communication, but rather the disruption of communication. Listen to that one. Its purpose is not communication, but rather the disruption of communication. That's how he describes language. If the purpose of language is communication, how can this tongue mean anything? Yet even this strange and twisted effort to communicate through not communicating holds enough of love to make it meaningful if its interpreter is not its maker. You who made it are but expressing conflict from which the Holy Spirit would release you. Leave what you would communicate to him. He will interpret it to you with perfect clarity, for he knows with whom you are in perfect communication. So this kind of boils it down to use communication only to commune, only to communicate with God and to let Spirit communicate through you. Like, I find this quite strong, like there is no need to use words and talk for anything but healing. There's no need to let the ego use the language because the ego made it.
He goes right on to say, you know not what you say, and so you know not what is said to you. Yet your interpreter, with a capital I, perceives the meaning in your alien language. He will not attempt to communicate the meaningless, but he will separate out all that has meaning, dropping off the rest and offering your true communication to those who would communicate as truly with you. You speak two languages at once, and this must lead to unintelligibility. Yet if one means nothing and the other everything, only that one is possible for purposes of communication. The other but interferes with it. And what are the two languages, right? One is the oneness, wholeness, our right mind itself. And the other is the language of separation, judgment, conflict.
Yeah. You know not what you say, and so you know not what is said to you. Interesting, huh? That's why we can say like the ears are speakers. Like we don't really listen and take in. If we did, we would hear beautiful sounds. But we hear what we believe. That's why they are more like speakers. We hear what we believe. We hear our own belief system. That's why it's almost like we live in a bubble when the split mind lives in a bubble of its own belief system. But if if we start to trust or start to let go of thinking we know what is said to us, then we can start to hear. That's why Jesus talks so much about trusting your brother. Because then we'll hear Spirit come through our brother, our sister. The Holy Spirit's function is entirely communication. He therefore must remove whatever interferes with communication in order to restore it. Therefore, keep no source of interference from his sight, for he will not attack your sentinels, but bring them to him, and let his gentleness teach you that in the light they are not fearful and cannot serve to guard the dark doors behind which nothing at all is carefully concealed. We must open all doors and let the light come streaming through. There are no hidden chambers in God's temple. Its gates are open wide to greet his Son. No one can fail to come where God has called him if he closes not the door himself upon his Father's welcome. rather practical section. It helps us to see where we hold some kind of tight, closed door in the mind. And realize we don't want that because it doesn't serve. Does anyone have any thoughts, comments, or questions on this section?
Yeah, just the meaning is that's what it really is, you know. Why am I saying this? You know, when you are talking, what is it for? That can be so strong in me, you know. I feel it very, very aware of meaning, especially in conversation. I often reach a point where, okay, that's enough, you know. It feels just meaningless to continue talking, you know. I'm still learning to just have the courage to go with that, you know. I think it's past learning that I still will just keep going. So I kind of lose myself a little bit.
But then it can be a prayer to say, well, Holy Spirit, talk through me. If talking is going on and you find yourself, it doesn't feel purposeful. Okay, what would you have me say or do? If it is to address something or end the conversation or extend a message. Yeah, I think these are the three options.
I often think, you know, Ramana Maharshi, he was known as the silent sage of Arunachala.
Yeah.
You know, I totally get that, you know. You just sit there in bliss, silence all day. He definitely only spoke when, you know, it was given to speak.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. He washed his self-concept away. He didn't need to. To be seen or heard.
Yeah, that's amazing what Jesus says. Language is a disruption of communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ramana Maharshi is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's no disruption in his communication because it's just his presence.
Yeah.
The beingness that is the communication.
Yeah.
It's like God.
Yeah. Communion.
Yeah.
And it's much better. Like you don't have to wait. There's no timeline in it. It's an immediate experience.
Right. Yeah.
Of true, pure communication.
Yeah. That's
why we need to pray to let our mouth be used only for helpfulness. Like, what's the point otherwise? Yeah. But I had that experience with when I was visited by the angel beings, true beings, 2006. The experience was so, the communication was immediate. There was no time. It was my question and their response was simultaneous. And no language was needed. No words, no voice, no mouth. It was, so I understand what he means. It was truly, I feel that the voice and the language in the world and the bodies and the time it takes it is a disruption of, in a sense, of that communication, unless it's given over to be used. And it doesn't really affect the mind that is in communion. The mind is resting in communion, and it can still be used to speak with the mouth, with its mouth. But it's not just language, it's everything. It's the whole world of form. Like what I felt too, that was beyond the world of form and the bodies. They're also a disruption of communion, of communication. There are parentheses in eternity. That's why we have nothing to fear here. Or nothing to lose, nothing to fear in this world. So it's all about allowing Spirit to use everything we have, we perceive, for our own awakening, for our own highest good, which is the highest good of everyone. For forgiveness, that's the only purpose.